So the first day, it's a 3-day leadership training, and I'm doing need exploration. And one of the examples I would give is, you can't go to lunch. I would pick one guy out of the audience and tell him he's got to stay in this room. He cannot leave. Nobody can bring him food. He has to sit here alone throughout their entire lunch period. Okay? Nobody can bring him anything. Well, the first response often in that setting when I did that was, say what? I don't think so, right? But when they would let me do need exploration for him, we got down and down and down, and and literally it goes from your head to your feelings. You'll start to hear feeling words. And then feeling is down to the gut, and gut is these selfish needs. Most people get stuck here. They'll stay with those feelings. He was stuck here. He could not pierce that veil. What was fascinating about this, I'm going to give you the same story about myself too in just a moment. The fourth day, it was a 3.5-day training. He met me in the parking lot, and we walked in together, and he leans over and says, I figured out what my need was. It took him 3 days to figure it out, to play with this, to be comfortable and no, that's not it, no, that's, and the next words out of his mouth were, and I'm not very proud of this. Yes, I'm sure you found it. That's got to be it, right? It is often that reaction that we get for a number of different cultural reasons. Let me give you my example. I'll go ahead and do this now. When my daughter, my oldest daughter, she's 28 now, 29 I think. When she was 18, 17, she started dating boys.
Really? She dated boys?
Boys, right. Now, see, I know boys. That was the problem. Yes, right? At night, in cars, right? So my very first reaction was to put all these restraints on her. I got to know where you're going. I got to know who you're going with. I got to do background checks on, and they've got to see my gun collection before they leave the house. Come on in, son, right? Well, the more I squeezed, right, conflict management secret number 2, you can only control 2 things. The more I tried to control her, guess who was out of control? Me. Which means she pulled away even farther. I got less information. My fear went up. I squeezed even more. It's a vicious cycle. Well, if you'll do the calculations, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. I think it's 19, but very close to 20. Okay? 19 and some months. Right? She's 29 now, right? She's 18 then. I knew how to do need exploration then. So I thought, all right, let's try this. I'm going to try and do need exploration on myself. It took me 3 days to figure out what my need was. It was only one need to figure it out. Now, I tell you that story. I can do it much more quickly now. I'm much faster at it. I've got a few short circuit tricks I can do because I know me now. But 3 days, I tell you that not just for the embarrassment purpose, but this is not a skill we've been socialized into. It is not easy to do this kind of introspection and searching and find that piece down there at the very bottom that is embarrassing. And I was embarrassed also. Now, my daughter going out with boys, what do you think my fear was? What do you think I was afraid of? Yes, getting pregnant. Now, I thought about this. I'm thinking, if she gets pregnant, she's got to live with her own consequences. Those are her choices. And if she decides to have sex and she that's up to her. Okay? She'll just have to live with it. But that was very close. I had a bunch of others, and usually I would get in the group. Someone says safety. Notice safety is a misdirect. Do you see that? You're worried about the safety of your daughter. Who's that about? That's about her. What impact is her not being safe going to have on me? Now we're closer. So no, it wasn't safety. I thought about all of that. Some other things, I'm losing her as a daughter. The dad thinks I'm going to be replaced. I thought about that. Nope, that wasn't it. The fear was still there. I wasn't quite. We got to pregnant, and no, that wasn't quite it. It was close. When I started thinking through it, if she has a baby, then, that's what she made her bed. She's got to sleep in it. Unless It's not pregnant. What was I afraid of? No. It wasn't her getting pregnant. It was her having a baby. And it wasn't so much her having a baby because, you know what? She can take care. Ooh, what if she... Oh, my God. Who's going to have to take care of this baby if she can't? 17 years old, right? And that was it, my fear. It wasn't her having sex. It wasn't her getting pregnant. It wasn't her having a baby. It was me having to raise this baby. And here's where the selfishness came in. I was just about finished raising 3 girls. I didn't want to start over again. I am this close to freedom. Yes, I do not want to give up this freedom. And therefore, I don't want this baby. And that's, see how selfish that's? You'll sacrifice your daughter's baby for your... Yeah. I'm thinking about it, right? And that's what it is. I mean, we're down here to some of this fundamental stuff. I mean, connection to self at this point. You know, I don't want to be doing that. Ah, yes, exactly. We're peeling it. But there is something in the center of it. Yes. Something that's basic human need. Now, if we go ahead and push this, how many different ways are there to make sure I don't have to raise this baby, that I can keep my freedom? There are 10. Think of some. What could I do to make sure I wouldn't have to raise this baby? Okay, I could just disown her completely.
No, just tell her
I'm not going to do it. It's yours. Your baby. I'm not going to do it. Draw some strong boundaries. That's one. What else could I do? I could disown her. Tui, you're dead to me. Right? Not necessarily a good idea, but would I keep my freedom if I did that? This is the difference between brainstorming and judging, evaluating. This would meet my need. She's out of my life. It's not the choice I'm necessarily going to make. In the brainstorming session, we're identifying all the ways to make sure that need gets met. We'll judge them later, right? For example, homicide. I could kill her. I could kill the baby. This is an abortion, adoption, be a way that I would. Are those choices I would necessarily pick? No. Suicide. I wouldn't have to raise that baby. Kind of cuts into my freedom a little bit, but right? Are those good options? No. But would they make sure I wouldn't have to raise this baby? What else could I do to make sure I wouldn't have to raise this baby? I could leave the country. Don't leave a forwarding address. Goodbye. So long. Have, catch up with you later when she's 22 years old. I'll check in with you later. 10 different ways, especially if you don't evaluate them yet. Are they all viable? One of the options on the list was birth control. That was the one her mother and I picked. We put her on birth control to make sure that my freedom would be maintained. Increase the chances, right? I also had other those alternative options and alternatives available to me. But this illustrates the process we're going through. It's not always pretty. That's another reason you have to do it alone. 3 days. It took him 3 days. I was not surprised. What surprised me was that he spent that much time on this. This is a training in the federal government for 3 days. And he went home each night and struggled with this all the way through. It is amazing. And the other thing you're going to find out when you do this is almost epiphany. The number of times I've had people sitting in a chair and I'm walking through them with, I don't know what the answers are. Nobody knows the answer in this conflict, what your need is, but you. I can't tell you what it is. The number of times they go, oh my God, that's what oh no. I had one woman literally ask for a break in the middle of a training. We were going through this exercise with her. She had brought a conflict to the tables with one of her staffers. And when we went through need exploration, she literally, the epiphany went out. She said, I gotta go call them right now. I had no idea that's what this was about. It was about her. And we literally took a break. She went and called, apologized, talked through, was able to identify what was going on. It's often an epiphany, so don't be surprised. Watch this. Don't get caught. You will never be able to get to this level if you get caught up in the misdirections. It's about that person. It's their human need. Don't get caught in that. Here is the heart of every conflict. This is why people engage. The heart of every conflict is a photograph of loss. Here's what this means. There is, given the current, I'll draw it. That'll be the easiest thing to do. Given the course of present circumstances, X, if things continue the way they are right now into this future event, this is now, this is the future. If things follow the present course and nothing alters this course to this moment in time, there is going to be severe loss. Nothing changes. So given what has happened in the past, given where they are right now, this is inevitable. Nothing's going to stop it unless I do something. In order to stop this from happening, they engage in the conflict. I'm going to step in. The desire is to alter the course of events to make sure this photograph never develops. The way they are going to stop this photograph from developing is to interject at this moment this request. If I can get this thing right here, and I get it before here, that loss will never happen. That is literally what is going on in any conflict. So it goes like this. It's this fear of the impending loss that provides the energy for the engagement in this conflict. People only fight about things they care about, either issue or relationship, and something is about to be an impending loss, unless something happens. If you give me this, that won't happen. So I step in with my single solution mindset. Give me this so that won't happen. The person says no. Now we're in it for real. I gotta have it. Well, you can't have it. I have to have it. You should give it to. Now everything, all the energy is trying to change this person in order to keep this from happening. If circumstances continue, there will be substantial personal loss. That's what motivates every single conflict. That loss is going to be a threat to their personal needs. Psychologically, emotionally, financially, maybe all the above. The result, this person must engage in this conflict. Must. Now, do they have a choice? Yes, they do have a choice. If they do not engage in this conflict, if they do not try to get this request that will stop this loss, then they must suffer that impending loss. Those are my choices. I either engage in this conflict or I suffer this impending loss. Which is worse? Very few people I know on the planet, there are a few, very few people I know on this planet love conflict. They don't get up in the morning, oh, I can't wait to get into 6 conflicts today. Very few people like that. It takes a lot of energy. There's a huge cost involved in any conflict. So they have to care about it. Well, not only do they care about it, to have the energy to step into it, they've got to prevent this loss. It is so difficult to suffer that loss, I'm willing to spend the energy to engage. Here's the myth about conflict. Most people, when they think about conflict, They immediately think something in the past happened that caused this conflict. That is not what motivates conflict. What motivates conflict is whatever happened continues. If whatever course of events that event in the past caused continues, it's the future that feeds a conflict. Now watch what we've done. With this insight, not only is all resolution in the future, conflict management secret number 4, but the very catalyst, the very source of energy for this conflict is from the future. The future plays an incredibly important role in any conflict whatsoever. Nationally, internationally, personally, interpersonally. Why do we need to go to war with Iraq? Because weapons of mass destruction is going to, right? We cannot risk the impending loss that's inevitable if we don't act, whatever it is, whatever that conflict is. Conflict is fueled by a fear of some future outcome, unless it's the conflict that is designed to alter current course of circumstances. The resolution to all conflict lies within the future, not past behavior. Therefore, what we're looking for, the request describes future behavior. Here we are back to need exploration. What does this do for you? What you need from this person is a picture of this photograph. Tell me what's going to happen in your life if you don't get this request. If I don't get the request, circumstances continue the way they are. I don't get that promotion. I don't get that money. I don't get the recognition. There is some personal loss that they see as inevitable. If you can figure out what that loss is, you'll know what this does for them. This is what they don't want to happen. This is designed to stop it. There are 9 other ways to stop it. So yes, they said no to this. It doesn't make that inevitable. So notice, they've asked, I'm going to change my colors here just a little bit. They've asked for this in order to stop this from happening. Right? Implied in every don't is a do. Implied in every don't want is a do want. They don't want this to happen. What is it they do want to happen? What you are literally going to do, this is a photograph of loss. This is a photograph of benefit. This is literally what they're fighting for. They stepped into this conflict to stop something from coming into their life. And they are completely believe that if this happens, it will stop it. They're right. There's no reason to doubt that it's not true. That if they get this, this won't happen. But it's possible to get this, stop that from happening, and still not get what you were really looking for. You wanted recognition. You wanted value. You wanted connection. You wanted belonging, self-esteem, whatever list you wanted, food, clothing, shelter, whatever it is in that list. This is what you wanted. Get the request. That's the pivot point. It stops something. Ask questions to figure out what it is. The role of the request is to alter this course of the future by figuring out what it prevents. You're only one small step away from figuring out what it provides. If you do get this thing, what's it going to do for you? It's going to give me meaning and purpose. It's going to give me challenge. It's going to give me my next step in my high 3. In the federal government, to retire, you get your high 3 that determines your retirement. If you're not on the right path at the right time, your high 3 is going to be a low. And people will fight for a promotion or fight for a training because it fits what they're looking for and they don't want to lose. Well, if I could figure out another way for you to get that, what does it provide for you? the benefit. This is the reason for the request. The benefit. You need to figure out and get as sharp an image as you can of that photograph of benefit. Here's literally what happens. Once I figure out what this benefit is, there's 9 other ways for me to get that for you. Some are going to be good, brainstorming. Some are going to be bad, brainstorming. We evaluate them later. I now end up with 10 possibilities, of which only 4 of them, actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 of them would actually be viable for me at this point in time. And picking those 4, I now have a lot more than I started with. They said no to this. They might say yes to one of these. Not only that, I'm doing the exact same thing with the other person. That other person has a set of needs. They said no to this. Why did they say no to this? Watch this. This is beautiful, and it's like string theory. I mean, it's beautiful and simple all at the same time. As soon as, here's what's happened. This person has filed a complaint, they're in a conflict, they've stormed into an office, whatever it is, they've engaged in order to stop this. They come in and demand this, and as soon as they demand it, Rudy, I need, I want, I deserve, and whatever you fill the blank in. As soon as I make that demand, that request, as soon as I lay my orange out on the table, an image of loss pops into Rudy's head. If I give you that, it's going to cost me X, Y, Z. So I have to say no. Because to grant you that request creates a photograph of loss. Now Rudy has to step in and engage to stop this thing from happening because that loss would be too great. They're both motivated by a photograph of loss in the future. Rudy has a need as well. What is the no protecting? What's the reason for the no? What's the benefit of saying no for Rudy? Maybe it's keeping the status quo. Maybe it's not changing things because the course of events that he has planned right now is working just fine. Don't interfere. Whatever it is, once I figure out what that benefit is, there are 9 other ways to meet Rudy's need. Are they all viable? Maybe not. But out of those 9, there might be 3 on his list that he's willing to offer me. So I've got 4 on my list, 3 on his list. Between the 2 of those 7 options, do you think we might be able to find something? Here's why this works. We have shifted the energy in this room. I have stepped into this to prevent something from coming into my life. I'm pushing something out. As soon as I figure out what the benefit is, I want that. I'm working to pull something into my life. No, how do I get that? Give me that. Tell me what I need to do. And now I'm chasing something that I really, really want. Rudy, I would even be willing. Do you want one of those 3 things? I'll help you that. I will help give you 1 or 2 of those if you'll help me get what I wanted. The energy in that room shifts. The leverage, remember the leverage we were looking for? The leverage is from that benefit. I will help get you what you want if you help me get what I want. We're no longer working to stop something in our lives. The goal is not mutual understanding. The goal is mutual benefit. That's where the leverage is. The leverage lies in the benefit. If I could help you meet your need, what would you be willing to do for me in exchange? You want leverage? You want that other person to do what you want them to do even though they said no? Find out what they need and then give it to them. They will trip over themselves helping you if they knew you could actually give it to them. That's leverage. Not threat, not punish, not shame, not guilt. Leverage rests in finding that need. Quick steps. Here's a little plan to follow. If you're going to get into a conflict, first thing to do is explore the past. Don't negotiate the past, explore the past. Get that request as quickly as possible. When you find the request, look for the benefit. Figure out what it prevents and what it provides. Create multiple options for getting that provision. Pick which ones are the best, and then offer mutual exchange. I'll do this for you if you do this for me. My experience with this process, if you do this, even if I can't help Rudy meet his need, he comes back with 3 things he's willing, but I can't do it. I really wish I could, but I can't. It's not that I don't want. I'm literally, if I could, I would, because I want this thing in exchange. Even if that happens, even if there is no resolution, I have changed the dynamics of this conflict. These two people are talking to each other in a very different way than they were when they walked in this room. That's something. Even if I can't get resolution or settlement, I've changed the dynamics in this room. Questions, thoughts, concerns, frustrations?
Guard service, protective service, law enforcement. And he'd applied for a position to come back as a fleet manager.
Back to GSA.
And they scheduled a mediation to explore the resolution. And so he laid out what his need was. He wanted to get back because TSA didn't have very much security.
Yes.
And he was an older gentleman and he wanted to be able to have some security and maybe ensure some retirement benefits. But when he went to GSA, his status changed. Which means he could no longer compete on the same level for jobs. And the job that he applied for, his most recent experience was in the military service 15 years earlier. He was competing with, this is right after the economic downturn when the automobile industry went into the tubes.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of those people who were working for dealerships were now looking for jobs wherever they could find them. So he was competing with a guy who had been a service writer for one of the dealerships for 15 years. And had just come out of that position, who also was a veteran.
Oh, wow.
So they met and they finally, so he wanted a position back with the agency, with GSA. And they finally decided, well, exploring options, one of them says, well, since you don't have the kind of experience that we need for this position or a future position in this area, we could get it for you, except we don't have any authority to detail you back. And chances are, and he was pretty confident about this too, he says, chances are TSA is not going to release me to come back
Ooh.
to a detail with you. Because as a guard or whatever, the people at TSA, they needed him to do that job.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't going to pay him to do the job for doing a job at TSA while he's over at GSA.
Right.
Getting some experience so he can come back. And so finally we got through evaluating the options. They all realized that GSA couldn't help him with what he needed.
Yeah.
They wanted to, and they were eager to. They even spoke with human resources and all those people says, we can't help you. The authorities between these two agencies are so divergent that we can't help you. We feel for you. You can continue to apply for positions, but you can't aid in that process. And because of the way this job was competed, you were simply out-competed by a better candidate.
This time around,
This
yeah.
time around.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the mediation, he said, well, I appreciate y'all giving me that consideration, but I see you can't help me. And I really don't have a leg to stand on in terms of being non-selected on the basis of
Right.
race.
Right.
And he shook hands with the manager's hand.
No animosity. Yep. Very cool.
And I'm sure at some point they got it back. But I think he made more points.
Yes.
He got more credibility with them by acknowledging, hey, I took my shot at this. I realize now that I really
Yep.
any skin in the game.
I had to try. I had to try.
I needed this security.
Yep. I had to try
With
it.
TSA,
Yep.
I may end up with no benefits, no retirement,
Yes.
no job, and I'm getting up in age. I ain't the youngest.
Yep.
You handled it with dignity in the other situation. He was a manager.
Mensch.
You know what a
Yeah.
manager is? And you're a big person.
What happens next is we go back over there, the conflict you brought to the table, you brought in with you this morning, and have you think through what was it you were asking for? What was your request? What were you trying to prevent from happening? If we now ask what impact would it have, what was the benefit? Can you think of any other ways? And they don't have to share. We can do this all, but then often I will ask, anybody want to share? And folks will often, someone will start to tell a story about what's happening with them in that argument. Professionally, more often what's beautiful about this training is even if somebody comes in this room thinking, another dumb training that I got to go through to the military, they walk away with this, wow, this could help me personally. This could help me with my teenage son, or my mother is in elder care right now, and the fight I'm having with my brother, right? They all see other applications for this, not just the thing we've been contracted to do. So,
One of our contract fellows used to call it, he said, this is people doing people stuff.
yeah.
And there are people doing people stuff
Everywhere.
in all kinds of environments and all kinds of
So this piece is a little more complicated, but can you see yourself teaching that material with your style, your stories? I've got the story with my daughter, took 3 days. I've got the story with the customs service guy